Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Quiche Lorraine. That's right, Mother's Day's coming up, and like I've always said, if you like your mother, take her out for brunch. But if you love your mother, you make her quiche. So let me show you how to make this. Trust me, Mom is going to be impressed. So first step here, we're going to put a saute pan on medium heat. I'm going to throw in some thickly sliced bacon. So we're going to cook that basically all the way through, all right? This should be nicely browned. You don't need to go all the way to like super crispy stage, but just like that is perfect. So I'm going to remove this with tongs to a plate to drain. I'm leaving the fat in the pan so I can cook my onions and leeks, but I don't need all that bacon fat. So you know our trick. We take a piece of paper towel with the tongs and we blot out some of that oil. So I'm removing a lot of it. I'm probably going to leave in a couple teaspoons. And then over medium heat again, we're going to add our onions and leeks along with a big pinch of salt, and we're simply going to sweat those until they get kind of translucent and sweeten up and get tender, all right? And while those are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and add a little cayenne. That never hurts anything. And some freshly ground black pepper. And we're just going to keep cooking that until the onions and the leeks kind of sweeten up. They're going to go a little bit golden brown, and they're going to basically be almost tender. All right, so right there, mine were looking perfect. I'm going to turn off the heat and just leave that on the stove until needed. Okay, for the crust, we're going to need a deep dish pie pan with enough pie dough for a single crust, which is what I have right there. Of course, we have a video recipe for pie crust. Go check it out. It's super easy. And what we're going to do here is we're going to heat our oven to 425 degrees, and we're going to do what's called blind bake the crust, which is basically pre-bake it a little bit before we add the filling. So I want you to take a piece of aluminum foil and just shape it so it fits inside your crust. So press it flat against the bottom, make sure it's touching the sides, and then we need to weight it down. All right, so generally I use dried peas or dried beans, which I'm using here. Unfortunately, that's all I had, and it wasn't enough. But luckily, I also had some glass beads, which work too. What you don't want to do, though, is mix beans and beads, because you know what you're going to have to do after you bake this? Separate beans and beads. So that really was not a smart idea, but I had to do it. We're going to put it in a 425-degree oven for 7 minutes. After 7 minutes, you're going to pull it out. You're going to carefully, very carefully gather up the foil, and whatever you use to weight this down with, you're going to pull it out, and it's going to look like that. You're going to put that back in the oven for another 5 minutes. And when you pull it out, it's going to look like that. It should just start getting a little bit golden brown. There's going to be a little shrinkage, not significant shrinkage, but a little bit. All right, so we're going to set that aside. You're going to lower your oven to 325. And then it's time for the filling, which is very, very easy. I have 3 whole eggs plus 2 egg yolks. We're going to use cream and milk. So I'm going to dump that in. You're going to beat that until well mixed. I'm going to add a nice big pinch of freshly chopped thyme. All right, whisk that in. And believe it or not, that's done. So on the bottom of your crust, you're going to put down 2/3 of your onion leek mixture. Spread it out. 2/3, save a third. Then you're going to put down 1/3 of your bacon. That's right, 1/3, saving 2/3. Then we're going to dump in 2/3 of our cheese. And of course, we're using a beautiful Gruyere. All right, so 2/3 of the cheese is in, and then we're carefully going to ladle in our cream egg mixture. And why don't I just dump it all in, pour it all in violently? Because I don't want everything to move around. I'm carefully layering, constructing this quiche so it has the perfect texture. So I don't want to screw that up. And then once that's ladled in, we're going to put the rest of the stuff on. So we have 1/3 of the onion leek mixture left. Sprinkle that over the top. We have 2/3 of our bacon left. You may remember that bacon from such layers as the first one. So we're going to spread out the rest of the bacon. And then you're going to have 1/3 of your cheese left, which you're going to sprinkle over the top. All right? That's going to go in the reduced heat, 325-degree oven for about 40 minutes or so until just set. So I'm in the oven. I'm giving this a little shake, a little jostle, a little jiggle. And you see in the center how that egg is wiggling and it's very liquefied. That's not set. So it's getting set around the outside, but it's not set in the center. Here, it's just barely set. See, I can wiggle it. It still moves just a hair in the center, but it's not liquid. So I let mine cool thoroughly in front of a window. Watch out for bears. Quiche is not something you eat piping hot. It's something you eat just warm, in my opinion. But of course, defer to Mom. There's the way Mom wants it and the wrong way. So don't forget that. And you can see because we layered it so carefully, there's exactly the same amount of bacon, leek, cheese, and egg custard in every bite. If you just dumped everything in, the heavy stuff settles to the bottom, and it's just not as good, okay? Anyway, there you go. Classic quiche Lorraine, named, of course, after probably a French woman named Lorraine. I didn't research that, but it sounds right. And by the way, if your mother's name is Lorraine, come on. How you not going to make this? It's perfect. So I hope you give that a try. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.